We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. For most people, betrayal arrives loudly. Screaming matches, slammed doors, ugly confessions. Mine crept in quietly. My name is Aaron Cole, and for years, my marriage looked calm from the outside. Stable, respectable, the kind of relationship people pointed at and said, at least they don't have drama. But calm doesn't mean honest. My wife, Melissa Cole, had mastered the art of appearing content. She moved through our house with soft confidence, always organized, always composed. She liked routines, early workouts, carefully planned meals, a color-coded calendar on the fridge. And slowly, without announcing it, she removed herself from me. It started with distance, disguised as growth. She wanted more personal space, more self-care days, more time away that didn't require explanation. When I asked questions, she didn't argue. She smiled, as if my concern was sweet but unnecessary. You worry too much, she'd say gently. Not everything has to be a problem. So I stopped asking. Our days became parallel lines. I left for work before sunrise. She slept in. I came home to reheated dinners and polite conversation. No arguments. No affection either. Just quiet cooperation. At night, she scrolled through her phone while I stared at the ceiling, listening to the space between us grow heavier. The night before everything changed, she was unusually warm. She laughed at my jokes, sat close on the couch, rested her head on my shoulder like she used to years ago. That sudden closeness felt wrong, not comforting, but calculated. You've been really good to me, she said softly. The words landed strange in my chest. The next morning, she woke before I did. When I came into the kitchen, she was already dressed, makeup done, hair styled with care. Not casual, not lazy, intentional. She looked prepared. I'm heading out early, she said, slipping on a bracelet. Just a day for myself. I nodded, but something tightened behind my ribs. You seem dressed up for a quiet day, I said, trying to sound casual. She smiled without missing a beat. I wanted to feel nice. She kissed my cheek, slow, controlled, and left. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in months, the house felt too silent. I went to work, forced myself into meetings, answered emails I didn't care about. But my focus kept slipping. Every small memory replayed with new meaning. Late nights, guarded phone calls, sudden privacy settings, unfamiliar names mentioned casually. Around midday, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I stepped outside and answered. Hello. There was a pause on the other end. Then a steady female voice. My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm sorry to call like this, but I think our spouses are involved with each other. My breath caught. I didn't respond right away. My brain rejected the sentence before my heart could process it. I wouldn't be calling if I wasn't sure, she continued quietly. I've confirmed things I didn't want to believe. I leaned against the wall, my pulse roaring in my ears. Why call me? Another pause. Because today, she said, their stories didn't line up anymore. Something cold settled deep in my stomach. This wasn't suspicion. This was confirmation knocking at my door. And I hadn't even reached the worst part yet. I didn't tell anyone what Rachel said. Not a friend. Not my sister. Not even myself. Not fully. I went back inside, sat at my desk, and stared at my screen while numbers blurred into meaningless shapes. My hands were steady, but my chest felt hollow like something essential had been quietly removed. I replayed Melissa's voice in my head. Just a day for myself. I replayed her smile, the timing, the care she took with her appearance. Rachel's words echoed louder with every passing minute. Their stories didn't line up anymore. I texted her back after an hour of silence. What do you know exactly? Her reply came fast, like she'd been waiting. Enough to stop pretending. Enough to show you, if you're willing. I swallowed hard and typed. Show me. She sent screenshots. Not dramatic, not explicit. Calendar overlaps. Shared locations. A reservation email forwarded accidentally to a shared inbox. 2 names. 1 room. 1 time. I closed my eyes. There it was. The invisible thread connecting months of unease into one clear line. I thought about all the times Melissa told me I was imagining things. About how calmly she dismissed my questions. About how convincing she sounded when she said trust mattered. Trust. That word felt bitter now. Rachel called me again. This time, her voice shook just slightly. I confronted Jason last night, she said. He didn't deny it. He just reframed it. Said it was temporary. That it didn't mean anything. I let out a quiet breath. They always say that. Yes, she said. They do. There was a pause. Then she added, I'm not interested in screaming or begging. I want the truth out in the open. So do I said. For the first time that day, I meant something with certainty. Rachel explained what she'd pieced together. Jason had grown distant months ago, more attentive to his appearance, more guarded with his phone, suddenly protective of his schedule. Sounded familiar. Too familiar. He told me today it was a wellness conference, she said. No guests. No distractions. I almost laughed at the symmetry. Melissa had used different words, but the meaning was the same. Don't follow, don't ask, don't look too closely. Rachel lowered her voice. I checked the reservation. It's still active. My stomach tightened. You're sure? Yes, she said. And I'm going there. I stood up slowly. I'm coming too. She didn't hesitate. I was hoping you'd say that. The drive there felt unreal, like moving through a tunnel where everything outside the windshield was muted. I kept thinking about Melissa, how easily she compartmentalized her life, how confidently she stepped into lies without flinching. I wondered if she ever felt guilty. I wondered if she'd practiced her expressions in the mirror. Rachel and I agreed to meet nearby. Not together, not obvious. No confrontation yet, just confirmation. Control. When I arrived, I sat in my car longer than necessary, watching people come and go. Couples, friends, staff members moving with polite efficiency. It all looked harmless, peaceful. That made it worse. Rachel parked 2 spaces away. We didn't greet each other at first, just exchange a look through the windshields. A silent understanding passed between us. 2 people standing at the edge of a truth neither of us had asked for. We walked in separately. The lobby smelled faintly of citrus and clean linen. Soft music played. Everything about the place was designed to calm nerves, to convince you nothing bad could happen here. I stood near a brochure stand, pretending to read while watching reflections in the glass. Rachel approached the front desk before I did. I could hear her voice, calm, polite, controlled. I'm checking on a reservation, she said. The front desk supervisor, Vanessa Clark, smiled professionally and tapped at her keyboard. Name, Jason Monroe. Vanessa nodded, scrolling. Yes, I see that. You're early. Rachel smiled faintly. I like to be prepared. Vanessa glanced back at the screen, then frowned slightly. It looks like this booking includes a guest. Rachel tilted her head. It does. Yes, Vanessa said. A couple's service. The words landed softly, but they hit like a hammer. Rachel didn't react. Not outwardly. She simply nodded. Thank you, she said. I'll wait. That was my cue. I stepped forward. I'd like to confirm a reservation as well. Vanessa looked up. Name. I met her eyes. Melissa Cole. The typing stopped. Vanessa glanced between the 2 of us, then back to her screen. A subtle shift in her posture told me everything. Recognition. Realization. I see it, she said carefully. You're both listed together. Rachel and I exchanged a look. No yelling. No scene. Just truth, finally visible. Is there somewhere we can sit? Rachel asked. Vanessa nodded immediately. Of course. We were guided to a quiet seating area. Rachel folded her hands in her lap. I noticed her breathing, slow, measured. She was holding herself together with discipline I admired. They think they're careful, she said quietly. They think secrecy equals control. I stared at the hallway leading deeper into the building. They forgot one thing. What's that? She asked. Other people exist. Rachel smiled, thin, sharp, resolute. I don't want revenge, she said. I want accountability. I thought of Melissa's smile. Her confidence. Her certainty that I would stay ignorant. I want both, I said calmly. We didn't rush. We didn't storm. We waited. Because the strongest consequences don't arrive loudly. They arrive when there's nowhere left to hide. Waiting does strange things to time. Minutes stretch. Sounds sharpen. Every footstep feels personal. I sat there beside Rachel, hands folded, posture calm, while my thoughts stormed in every direction. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't angry in the way people expect. What I felt was colder, focused. Melissa had always underestimated silence. She thought control meant smooth explanations and perfectly chosen words. She never imagined what would happen if I stopped reacting altogether. Rachel checked her watch. They're late. I nodded. They think they're early. We didn't speak much after that. There was no need. Everything we might have said would have been wasted energy. Instead, we watched. The hallway door finally opened. Melissa stepped out first, relaxed, wrapped in a soft robe, her hair pinned loosely back. She looked refreshed, unburdened, like someone who believed she was winning. Jason followed a moment later. I recognized him immediately from the photos Rachel had shown me. Tall, confident, carefully groomed. He scanned the lobby casually, expecting nothing more than a quiet exit. Then Melissa saw me. The color drained from her face so fast I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Her steps slowed. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. For a second, she looked like she might pretend she hadn't seen me, like she could walk past, and this would disappear. It didn't. She stopped. "Aaron," she said, voice thin, "what are you doing here?" I stood slowly, my movements unhurried. "That's my question." Jason froze mid-step when he saw Rachel. His confident posture collapsed into stiffness. He swallowed, eyes darting between us. Rachel stood too. "Hi, Jason," she said evenly. "I thought you were at a conference." He didn't answer. Melissa turned to him, confusion and panic fighting across her face. "You said." "I know what he said," Rachel interrupted gently. "And I know what you said too." The lobby had grown quiet. Not because we were loud, but because tension has a way of drawing attention. Melissa tried to regain control. "Aaron, this isn't what it looks like." I almost smiled. "You're right," I said calmly. "It's exactly what it is." Her eyes filled, but I recognized the pattern. Emotion as strategy. "You're overreacting," she whispered. "We were just talking. You've been distant. I didn't think you care." That stung, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed everything. I leaned slightly forward. "You didn't think I'd notice." Jason finally spoke. "We can explain." Rachel's laugh was soft and humorless. "No, you can't." Melissa reached for my arm. I stepped back before she touched me. "Don't," I said quietly. That word landed harder than shouting ever could. Vanessa, the supervisor, approached carefully. "Is everything okay here?" "Yes," I said. "Perfectly." I turned back to Melissa. "We'll talk later." "Not here." Her relief was immediate and premature. Rachel met my eyes. There was a question there. "Now?" I nodded once. We left together, separately but aligned. Outside, the air felt sharp and clean. Rachel exhaled deeply like she'd been holding her breath for months. "I thought I'd feel weaker," she said. "I don't." "Neither do I replied. But the hardest part hadn't arrived yet. That night, Melissa came home late. She didn't cry right away. She paced the living room, running her hands through her hair, searching for the right angle. "You embarrass me," she finally said. I looked up from the table where I'd been reviewing documents. Interesting choice of words. "You blindsided me," she snapped. "You made a scene." I closed the folder calmly. "You made a plan." "I discovered it." She crossed her arms. "I was unhappy." "So was I said. "I just didn't lie about it." Her voice softened. "This didn't have to turn into a war." I stood. "It's not a war. It's a reckoning." She stared at me, realizing something was different. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't furious. I was done. "You think you're in control right now," she said quietly. "But you're not." I almost thank her for that. Over the next week, she tried everything. Apologies wrapped in blame. Tears followed by defensiveness. Promises paired with excuses. She even suggested counseling, as if shared appointments could erase deliberate choices. I listened. I documented. I said very little, because while Melissa was scrambling emotionally, I was preparing practically. I met with Thomas Reed, my attorney. I shared timelines, messages, travel overlaps. Everything. "You're not angry," he observed. "You're methodical." "I don't want to destroy her," I said. "I want the truth to speak for itself." He nodded. "Then you're already ahead." Rachel and I stayed in contact, not out of comfort, but coordination. She was filing her own paperwork. Jason had tried to minimize, justify, and finally accuse her of overreacting. Patterns repeat themselves when exposed. Melissa, sensing the shift, tried one last tactic. She told friends a softened version of events. She painted herself as confused, pressured, misunderstood. She suggested I'd been emotionally unavailable. That might have worked if I hadn't already anticipated it. Because while she was revising narratives, I was gathering timelines. Receipts don't argue. They wait. And soon, they were going to speak. By the time Melissa realized I wasn't bluffing, the ground beneath her was already shifting. She still thought she had time. Time to negotiate, to soften me, to reshape the story the way she always had. She didn't understand that my silence wasn't hesitation. It was preparation. The formal meeting happened on a Tuesday morning, in a quiet office with neutral walls and a long wooden table that didn't care about emotions. Melissa arrived early, dressed carefully, posture confident. She greeted Thomas Reed with a practiced smile. Like this was just another inconvenience she'd talk her way through. She didn't look at me at first. When she did, she searched my face for something familiar. Anger, hurt, longing. She found none of it. Thomas spoke calmly, laying out the facts. Timelines. Shared bookings. Documented inconsistencies. Messages that contradicted her public version of events. Melissa's smile faded slowly. This is excessive, she said. We were in a rough patch. People make mistakes. I leaned forward slightly. Mistakes don't require planning. She turned to me sharply. So what? You're perfect now. No, I said evenly. I'm honest. That was the moment she understood. The meeting ended without shouting, without dramatics. Just signatures, quiet acknowledgments, and consequences set in motion. She left without looking back. Outside, the sky was clear, bright, indifferent. Rachel called me later that afternoon. It's done, she said. He finally admitted everything. On record. How do you feel? I asked. She exhaled. Lighter. I smiled for the first time in weeks. You deserve that. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it was steady. Jason's carefully maintained image cracked when timelines surfaced that didn't align with his professional claims. He wasn't publicly shamed. He didn't need to be. People noticed. Trust eroded quietly. Melissa faced something harder. Not punishment, but exposure. Friends stopped asking questions. Invitations slowed. Conversations shifted. The version of herself she'd curated no longer matched reality, and without lies to prop it up, it collapsed under its own weight. She tried reaching out one last time. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she admitted over the phone. I didn't think you'd actually lie, I replied. We ended the call without anger. There was nothing left to say. I moved into a smaller place near the river. Quiet. Clean. Mine. The first night there, I slept without tension for the first time in years. No second guessing. No waiting for explanations that never came. Just rest. Weeks passed. I reconnected with parts of myself I'd abandoned. Morning runs, long walks, silence that didn't feel heavy. I stopped measuring my worth through someone else's attention. Rachel and I met once more for coffee. Not to revisit pain, but to acknowledge survival. We didn't break, she said. We adjusted. Stronger materials, I replied. She smiled. Exactly. As for Melissa, I heard she told people the ending surprised her, that she never saw it coming. I did, because betrayal always believes it's smarter than consequence. It rarely is. What I learned wasn't about revenge. It was about control. Not over others, but over myself. I didn't need to shout, expose, or humiliate. I just needed to stop participating in the lie. And that was enough.